The alarm sounded across the Earth Defense Fleet headquarters at 3 in the morning. Captain Jake Morrison rolled out of bed, already reaching for his uniform. Something was coming, and it wasn't supposed to be there. 20 minutes later, he stood on the bridge of his ship staring at the screens. A vessel drifted through the outer solar system, trailing debris and leaking atmosphere. It looked nothing like the few alien ships Earth had encountered before. This one was dying. "Send them a message," Jake ordered. "All frequencies. Let them know we're here to help." The response came in a language the computers couldn't translate at first. Then another language. Then another. Finally, one of the translations worked. The message was simple and desperate. "Please. We need help. We are refugees." Jake brought his ship alongside the damaged vessel. Through the viewports, he could see movement inside. Figures that weren't human, but they moved with the same panic as any person facing death in the cold of space. He ordered his crew to prepare docking procedures. When the airlocks connected and the doors opened, Jake got his first look at the Kethrans. They were taller than humans, with scales that shimmered in shades of green and blue. Their eyes were large and golden, filled with exhaustion and fear. One of them stepped forward, holding up his hands in what looked like a peaceful gesture. "I am Vex," the alien said through a translation device. "We are the last of our people. We have nowhere else to go." Jake invited Vex and 2 others to his conference room. What he heard there changed everything he thought he knew about the galaxy. The Kethrans came from a world rich in a rare mineral that powered faster-than-light travel. The Galactic Union, a massive organization of alien civilizations, demanded access to those resources. When the Kethrans refused to give up control of their own planet, the Union declared them enemies. They bombed the Kethran homeworld until nothing remained but ash and ruins. 50,000 Kethrans escaped in whatever ships they could find. For months, they traveled from system to system, begging for sanctuary. Every world they visited turned them away. The Union had made it clear, anyone who helped the Kethrans would face the same fate. "Earth is our last hope," Vex said, his voice breaking. "We know your people are not part of the Union. We know you have been kept separate from galactic politics. Please, we only ask for a place to live, somewhere our children can be safe." Jake felt something twist in his chest. He thought about his own daughter, about what he would do if Earth was destroyed and she had nowhere to go. He made a decision that wasn't really his to make. "I'll take you to Earth," he said. "I'll speak for you." The journey to Earth took 3 days. During that time, Jake talked with many of the Kethrans. He learned about their culture, their music, their hopes. They weren't monsters or invaders. They were just people who had lost everything. When they reached Earth, Jake went straight to the president. Lisa Grant was a tough woman who had led Earth through difficult times before. She listened to Jake's report without interrupting. Then she called her advisors. The debate lasted for hours. Some advisors warned that helping the Kethrans would make Earth a target. Others argued that Earth had a moral duty to help. The few alien ambassadors Earth had contact with sent urgent messages warning against getting involved. President Grant sat in silence for a long time after everyone finished speaking. Then she stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "My grandfather used to tell me a story," she said. "During World War II, some countries turned away ships full of refugees, people fleeing death, and they were sent back to die because no one wanted the trouble of helping them. History remembers that shame. I won't let Earth be remembered the same way." She turned to face the room. "We'll give them sanctuary. Europa Station has room for 50,000 people. We'll help them build new lives there." The decision was announced the next day. The reaction from the galactic community was immediate and harsh. Earth's few trading partners cut all contact. Alien ambassadors left the planet. The Galactic Union sent a message stating that Earth had made a grave mistake, but the Kethrans had a home. Jake watched as the refugee ships landed on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons that humans had terraformed decades ago. The Kethrans stepped onto the surface, many of them falling to their knees and crying. Children ran in the open spaces, laughing for the first time in months. Dr. Greg Palmer volunteered to help the Kethrans settle in. He was a scientist who had studied alien biology for years, and he saw this as a chance to really help. His daughter Emma was less enthusiastic. She was a pilot in the defense fleet, and she worried about what would happen when the Union came looking for the refugees. "They will come, Dad," Emma said as they watched the Kethrans unloading their ships. "And when they do, we'll have to fight." "Maybe," Greg replied. But that's a problem for tomorrow. Today we help people who need help. That's what humans do. Over the following weeks, the Kethrans began to adapt to their new home. They were grateful, but the loss of their world haunted them. At night, many would gather and sing songs in their own language, mourning what they had lost. Vex met with Jake often. They developed a friendship built on mutual respect. Vex told him more about the Galactic Union, about how it controlled most of the known galaxy through fear and economic pressure. He explained that Earth had been kept isolated not by accident but by design. Humans had a reputation in the galaxy as being unpredictable and difficult to control. The Union preferred to keep them contained. "You've given us something precious," Vex told Jake one evening. "Hope. We thought the galaxy had forgotten what kindness looked like. Your people reminded us it still exists." Jake smiled, but he couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Somewhere out in the stars, the Galactic Union was watching, and they would not forget what Earth had done. Emma felt it too. She increased training schedules for her squadron and pushed for upgrades to Earth's defense systems. When people asked why, she gave them a simple answer: because someone has to be ready. 6 months after the Kethrans arrived, that readiness would be tested in ways no one could have imagined. The detection systems picked up the ship just after midnight. It wasn't broadcasting distress signals like the Kethrans had. This one was trying to hide. Commander Ryan Blake ran Earth's intelligence service, and he didn't like surprises. He ordered interceptor craft to surround the unknown vessel and demand identification. For 3 tense hours, the ship remained silent. Then finally a message came through: "We seek sanctuary, like the Kethrans before us. We come in peace, but we must remain hidden from Union sensors. Please, let us land before they find us." Ryan authorized the landing, but kept weapons locked on the ship. When it touched down at a secure facility in Nevada, he was there waiting with a full security team. The beings that emerged looked like nothing he had ever seen. They stood on 6 legs with bodies covered in a hard shell that gleamed like polished metal. Their heads had multiple eyes that moved independently, and their mouths had complex parts that clicked and buzzed when they spoke. The translation device they carried rendered their speech into English. "I am Kytex," the lead alien said. "We are Vorlathi. We bring information that will change everything you know about the galaxy." Ryan escorted Kytex to a secure room. What the Vorlathi told him was explosive. The Vorlathi were scientists and engineers famous across the galaxy for their brilliant minds. A year ago, they discovered something while analyzing galactic trade data. The Galactic Union's central government was corrupt at the highest levels. The ruling council had been manipulating laws for decades to enrich themselves, while keeping other species poor and dependent. "We found evidence of embezzlement, of fabricated wars to sell weapons, of planets stripped bare while the council hoarded wealth," Kytex explained. "We thought we were doing the right thing by bringing this information to the Union Assembly. Instead, the Vorlathi were declared enemies of the state. Union forces bombed their research stations and killed thousands of their people. The Vorlathi homeworld was placed under quarantine. Anyone who tried to leave was hunted down and eliminated. Only a few hundred managed to escape." "We have been running for months," Kytex continued. "We heard what Earth did for the Kethrans. We are hoping you will do the same for us." Ryan immediately brought Kytex to meet President Grant and Captain Morrison. The Vorlathi brought data files containing all their evidence. Human analysts spent days reviewing the information. Everything checked out. The Galactic Union wasn't just corrupt. It was a criminal organization masquerading as a government. President Grant called another emergency meeting. This time, the debate was shorter. Earth had already made its choice 6 months ago. Now it was simply confirming that choice. "We'll give you sanctuary," President Grant told Kytex. "Mars Colony 7 is still developing. We could use your help building it, and you'll have a place to call home." The Vorlathi accepted gratefully. They were fewer in number than the Kethrans, only about 800 individuals, but their knowledge was vast. Within days of settling on Mars, they were helping human engineers upgrade technology that had remained unchanged for decades. Dr. Greg Palmer was fascinated by the Vorlathi. He spent hours talking with Kytex about science, about the galaxy, about the possibilities of cooperation between species. Together they began developing new technologies that combined human creativity with Vorlathi computational power. Emma Palmer found herself assigned to work with a young Kethran engineer named Zeth. He had been helping upgrade Earth's defense systems, and Emma's expertise as a pilot made her valuable for testing new ship designs. At first, she resented the assignment. She still wasn't sure about trusting aliens, even ones Earth was protecting. But Zeth was different than she expected. He was quiet, thoughtful, and incredibly skilled. He listened when she talked about flight dynamics and asked intelligent questions. When she suggested modifications to his designs, he considered them seriously instead of dismissing them. "Why did you volunteer for this?" Emma asked him one day as they worked on a fighter prototype. Zeth was quiet for a moment. "My sister died when the Union bombed our world," he said. "She was 6 years old. I couldn't save her. But maybe I can help save others. Maybe I can make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to your people." Emma felt something shift inside her. These weren't just refugees. They were survivors trying to build something better. As weeks passed, a third group arrived. The Serani were an aquatic species, resembling a cross between dolphins and octopi. They had refused to conscript their youth into the Union's military. When they resisted, the Union blockaded their water world and starved them into submission. Thousands escaped in underwater vessels designed for deep space travel. President Grant didn't hesitate. Earth's oceans could house the Serani. Underwater habitats were constructed, and the Serani brought their own technology to help. They were peaceful people, but they knew how to defend themselves. They began sharing defensive techniques that could turn Earth's vast oceans into strategic strongholds. Earth was changing. The planet that had been isolated from galactic politics for so long was now home to 3 refugee species. Human cities saw Kethran families walking alongside human ones. Forlathi scientists collaborated with human researchers. Serani ambassadors worked with Earth's governments. Not everyone was happy about it. Senator Carl Hughes began speaking out against what he called President Grant's dangerous experiment. He argued that Earth was making itself a target for no good reason. "We've been safe because we stayed out of galactic affairs," he said in speeches across Earth. "Now we're harboring the Union's enemies. When they come for these refugees, they'll destroy us too. Is that what we want? To die for aliens we barely know?" His message found support among people who were afraid. They organized protests demanding that the refugees be sent away. But they were a minority. Most humans saw the refugees as people, not threats. Jake Morrison spent time on Europa Station getting to know the Kethran community. Children played in the streets, learning both their own language and English. Markets sold foods from both cultures. Artists created works that blended human and Kethran styles. "This is what the future looks like," Vex told Jake one evening. "Not separate species competing, but different peoples learning to live together." "I hope you're right," Jake replied. "But I think we're running out of time." He was correct. Deep in Union territory, High Arbiter Nexal reviewed reports about Earth with growing anger. The humans were making a mockery of Union authority. They had to be stopped. Nexal called his fleet commanders. "Prepare for deployment," he ordered. "We're going to remind Earth why the Union rules the galaxy, and we're going to make an example of them that no one will forget." Back on Earth, Ryan Blake's intelligence teams picked up increased Union military activity. Something big was coming. President Grant addressed the planet in a broadcast that reached every human colony and settlement. "We knew this might happen," she said. "We knew helping these people would come with a cost. But I believe we made the right choice, and now we have to be ready to defend that choice." Emma and Zeth worked longer hours, rushing to complete upgrades to Earth's defense fleet. Dr. Palmer and Chitex developed new shield technologies. The Serani reinforced underwater installations. Earth was preparing for war. But more than that, Earth was preparing to prove something. That compassion wasn't weakness. That standing up for what was right mattered, even when it was dangerous. That humanity, working together with others who shared their values, could face anything. The Union delegation arrived without warning. 5 massive ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system and demanded immediate access to meet with Earth's leadership. They weren't asking. They were telling. President Grant agreed to meet them in Geneva. Security was tight. Captain Morrison stood behind her, along with Commander Blake and representatives from all 3 refugee species. Vex, Chitex, and a Serani leader named Maria attended as observers. Ambassador Cruven led the Union delegation. He was from the Axiom species, tall and elegant with silver skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. His voice was smooth and pleasant, which made his words all the more chilling. President Grant, he began with a slight bow. The Galactic Union recognizes Earth's sovereignty within its own system. However, you have taken actions that violate galactic law. You are harboring criminals and enemies of peace. They're refugees, President Grant replied calmly. They came here asking for help. We gave it to them. Cruven smiled, but there was no warmth in it. The Kethrans attacked Union mining operations. The Vorlathi spread dangerous misinformation designed to destabilize galactic order. The Serani refused lawful military service. These are not refugees. They are criminals. They're people who refuse to be victims, Jake Morrison said from behind the president. That's not a crime. Cruven turned his attention to Jake. Captain Morrison, we know you facilitated the first breach of protocol. You should understand that the Union's patience has limits. We are offering Earth one chance to correct its mistake. He produced a datapad and placed it on the table. The Galactic Union demands that Earth surrender all refugees within 30 days. They will be transported to Union custody for proper legal proceedings. If Earth complies, no further action will be taken. Trade relations may even be restored. And if we refuse? President Grant asked, though she already knew the answer. Then Earth will face sanctions. All contact with Union-affiliated worlds will be severed. Your economy will suffer. Your people will suffer. And if you continue to resist, military action will be authorized to retrieve the criminals by force. Your ships are primitive, President Grant. Your defenses are weak. This would not be a war. It would be an extermination. The room fell silent. Cruven let his words hang in the air, watching President Grant's face for signs of fear or doubt. He found neither. I need to discuss this with my advisors, President Grant said. Give me 24 hours. You have 12, Cruven replied. The Union is being more than generous. After the delegation left, President Grant gathered her inner circle. Senator Hughes was there too, brought in because he represented a significant portion of Earth's population. We have to give them up, Hughes said immediately. We can't fight the Union. We'll all die for nothing. We won't die for nothing, President Grant replied. We'll die defending the principle that people have the right to be free. That matters, Senator. Principles don't matter when everyone's dead, Hughes shot back. I'm begging you to see reason. Send the refugees away. Save our people, Commander Blake spoke up. Senator, if we give in now, we're telling the Union they can threaten us into doing anything. Today it's refugees. Tomorrow it's our resources. Next year it's our freedom. Where do we draw the line? The debate went on for hours. Vex, Chitex, and Maria offered to leave voluntarily to spare Earth. President Grant refused to even consider it. Finally, she made her decision. She would address both Earth and the galaxy in a public broadcast. She would refuse the Union's ultimatum. The speech was delivered from the same room where the United Nations once met. President Grant stood at the podium looking directly into the camera. 12 hours ago, the Galactic Union gave Earth an ultimatum. They demanded we surrender the refugees we've been protecting or face destruction. I stand before you now to give them our answer. The answer is no. She paused, letting the words sink in. The refugees who came to Earth did nothing wrong except refuse to be slaves. They refused to give up their homes, their freedom, their children's futures, and when they were punished for that refusal, we gave them shelter. We did that because it's the right thing to do. Because humans understand what it means to fight for freedom. We've done it throughout our history. The Union calls them criminals. I call them brave. They stood up to power and paid a terrible price. Now the Union wants us to hand them over for what they call justice. But there's no justice in punishing people for wanting to be free. So we're drawing a line. We're saying that Earth will not bow to threats. We will not abandon those who trusted us, and we will not apologize for choosing compassion over fear. This decision may cost us dearly. War may come to our system. People may die. But if we surrender our principles to save ourselves, what are we saving? A life lived on your knees isn't worth living at all. To the Galactic Union, I say this: your ultimatum is rejected. Earth stands with the refugees. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. The broadcast ended. Within minutes, responses poured in from across Earth. Millions supported the president. Millions more were terrified. Senator Hughes held a press conference condemning what he called a death sentence for all of humanity. But the decision was made. Now came the hard part, preparing for what was coming. Jake Morrison took command of Earth's defense preparations. He had 800 ships, most of them outdated by galactic standards. The Union had tens of thousands, but he had advantages too. The Vorlathi immediately began upgrading Earth's ships with better shields and weapons. The Kethrans shared combat tactics they had learned during their desperate fight against the Union. The Serani turned Earth's oceans into a defensive network, hiding weapons and facilities beneath the waves. Emma and Zeth led the effort to retrofit fighters and small craft. They worked 20-hour days, barely sleeping. Their professional relationship had evolved into a friendship built on mutual respect. "Do you think we can win?" Emma asked him one night as they worked on a particularly difficult engine modification. "I don't know," Zeth admitted, "but I know we're going to fight. My people couldn't fight back when the Union came. We ran. But you humans are giving us a chance to stand and say no. That matters, even if we lose." Dr. Palmer and Chitex developed a revolutionary shield system that could potentially withstand Union weapons for short periods. It wasn't much, but it was something. President Grant met with military leaders and civilian authorities to plan evacuation procedures. If Earth's defenses fell, they needed to get as many people off-world as possible. Meanwhile, Ambassador Cruven returned to his ship and reported to High Arbiter Nexal. "They refused, sir. The humans are preparing to fight." Nexal laughed. "Excellent. We'll make an example of them that the entire galaxy will remember. No one defies the Union." He ordered the fleet to assemble. 300 warships began the journey to Earth's solar system. It would take them 2 weeks to arrive. Earth had 2 weeks to prepare for the greatest battle in human history. All across the planet, humans and refugees worked side by side. Factories ran around the clock producing weapons and parts. Scientists collaborated on last-minute innovations. Soldiers trained with alien warriors, learning from each other. Vex found Jake one evening standing alone and looking at Earth from a viewing platform. "Thank you," Vex said simply, "for everything. Whatever happens, know that you gave my people hope." "We're not done yet," Jake replied. "We're going to make them regret coming here." "I believe you," Vex said. "You humans are remarkable. You could have avoided this. You could have been safe. But you chose to fight for us instead. The galaxy has never seen anything like you." Jake smiled grimly. "Then they're about to get quite an education." The Union Armada arrived exactly when predicted. 300 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their weapons powered up and shields active. High Arbiter Nexal commanded from his flagship, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed anything in Earth's fleet. He opened a communication channel to Earth, his face appearing on screens across the planet. "This is your final warning. Surrender the criminals or be destroyed. You have 1 hour to decide." President Grant stood in the command center surrounded by her advisors and the refugee leaders. She looked at each of them in turn. Vex nodded. Chitex clicked his mandibles in determination. Maria's tentacles curled in what her people did as a sign of resolve. The president opened a return channel. Behind her stood representatives from all the species now calling Earth home. Human, Kethran, Vorlathi, and Serani together. "No," she said simply. Nexal's expression hardened. "So be it. Your species has chosen extinction." The channel closed. The battle began. Jake Morrison commanded Earth's defensive line from his flagship, the Defiance. He had positioned his ships in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, using the rocks as cover and obstacles. It wasn't much, but it would slow the Union advance. "All ships, this is Morrison. Hold your positions. Wait for them to come to us. Make them work for every meter." The Union fleet moved forward in perfect formation. They weren't worried about Earth's defenses. They had fought and won 1,000 battles across the galaxy. This would be no different. They were wrong. The first wave of Union ships entered the asteroid field and immediately came under fire. Earth's vessels had been positioned throughout the rocks, hidden and waiting. They struck fast and hard, targeting engines and weapon systems before retreating into cover. Emma Palmer led a fighter squadron through the asteroids with a precision that stunned the Union pilots. She and her wingmates had trained for weeks in this exact environment. Behind her flew Kethran pilots in ships they had modified themselves. Together they moved like a school of fish, coordinating without words. "Target their communication arrays," Emma ordered. "Blind them." Her squadron struck at the Union's electronic warfare vessels, disrupting the enemy's ability to coordinate. Suddenly, the Union fleet found themselves fighting dozens of separate battles instead of one organized offensive. Aboard the Defiance, Zeth monitored the Vorlathi upgrades he had installed. The new shield system was working, absorbing hits that would have destroyed the ship months ago. But it wouldn't last forever. Captain, Zeth called out. Shields at 60% and falling. We need to fall back and recharge. Not yet, Jake replied. We hold this line as long as we can. On Mars, Kitex activated the secret weapon the Vorlathi had been building. A network of satellites hidden throughout the solar system came online. They generated powerful electromagnetic pulses aimed at Union ships, temporarily disabling their advanced shielding. Now, Jake shouted. All ships full offensive. Earth's fleet surged forward, hitting Union vessels whose shields had momentarily collapsed. Explosions blossomed across the battlefield. A dozen Union ships were destroyed in the first minutes of the engagement. But the Union had numbers. For every ship Earth destroyed, 2 more took its place. Slowly, inevitably, they pushed forward. On Europa Station, Vex watched the battle through monitors. His people stood ready. If the Union broke through, they would fight here on the ground. Catherine warriors prepared weapons and fortified positions. They had run once. They wouldn't run again. The Union fleet reached Mars orbit. This is where the Serani made their stand. Hidden beneath Earth's oceans and in underwater facilities throughout the solar system, the Serani had been building defensive platforms. As Union ships attempted to bypass Mars, these platforms activated. Missiles and energy weapons fired from positions the Union hadn't detected. The Union fleet scattered, trying to identify and eliminate the hidden threats. That moment of confusion was what Earth needed. Jake ordered the main fleet to abandon the asteroid belt and hit the Union formation from behind. It was a desperate move, leaving nothing between the enemy and Earth, but it might break their momentum. The Defiance led the charge, weapons firing continuously. Emma's squadron followed, targeting the Union flagship itself. We're going for Nexal, Emma called to her pilots. Follow me in. It was insane. The flagship had defenses that should have destroyed them instantly, but the Vorlathi shields and Kethrin modifications gave them a chance. They dove through the defensive fire, taking hits but keeping formation. Commander Blake, watching from Earth's command center, executed his part of the plan. Using the evidence the Vorlathi had provided, he broadcast the Union's corruption files on all frequencies. Every ship in the battle, every monitoring station in nearby systems, every communication relay within light years received the data. The galaxy learned the truth about the Union's crimes. Proof of embezzlement, of manufactured wars, of planets destroyed for profit, all of it transmitted in real time during the battle. The effect was immediate. On several Union ships, crew members refused to keep fighting. They had believed they were serving justice and order. Now they knew they were serving criminals. 2 Union cruisers broke formation and stopped firing. Then 3 more. Then a dozen. High Arbiter Nexal watched his fleet falling apart. Traitors! He screamed. You're all traitors! Keep fighting or I'll have you all executed. But his authority was crumbling. Ships began turning away, refusing to participate in what they now saw as a criminal action. Jake saw the opportunity. All ships concentrate fire on the flagship. Take down Nexal. The combined Earth fleet focused everything they had on the massive dreadnought. The Vorlathi shields buckled. The Serani missiles found their mark. Emma's fighter squadron struck the bridge with precision fire. The flagship's engines exploded. The massive ship began to list, losing power. Nexal was forced to evacuate to a secondary vessel. Retreat. He ordered the remains of his fleet. Fall back! The Union armada that had come to destroy Earth limped away, broken and defeated. Jake didn't pursue them. His own fleet was battered and exhausted. The battle was over. Earth had won, but the cost was terrible. 300 human ships had been reduced to fewer than 200. Europa Station had taken heavy damage during a ground assault. Thousands had died, human and refugee alike. President Grant addressed the planet once more, this time with tears in her eyes. Today we proved that courage and unity can overcome overwhelming force. We proved that standing up for what's right matters, but we paid a heavy price. To everyone who lost someone in this battle, know that their sacrifice meant something. They died defending freedom. They died protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. We will never forget them. Jake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, exhausted. Zeth approached him carefully. Captain, we survived. Against everything, we survived. Yeah, Jake replied. Now comes the hard part. We have to build something better. We have to make sure this war meant something. Vex sent a message from Europa Station. Despite the damage, his people were already beginning repairs. Thank you, his message said. For everything. We are ready to help build whatever comes next. Dr. Palmer and Chitex compiled a report on the battle. Their combined technologies had made the difference. Human adaptability mixed with Vorlothy innovation and Kethran combat experience had created something the Union had never encountered before. Emma found a quiet moment to think. She had lost friends in the battle, good pilots who would never fly again, but she had also discovered something. Working with Zeth and the other refugees, she had found purpose. Earth wasn't alone anymore. They were part of something bigger. Senator Hughes called for President Grant's resignation, claiming the war had been unnecessary. But most of Earth disagreed. They had seen what unity could accomplish. The galaxy watched and waited. The Union's corruption was now exposed. Nexel's defeat had shown they could be beaten. Other oppressed species began to wonder if they too could stand up and say no. Earth had survived its trial by fire. But the real test was just beginning. The weeks after the battle were strange and difficult. Earth mourned its dead while simultaneously becoming the most watched planet in the galaxy. The evidence Commander Blake had broadcast during the fighting spread across 1,000 worlds. Species that had never questioned the Union's authority now demanded answers. On Earth, workers repaired damaged stations and ships. Human and refugee crews worked side by side, the divisions between them fading with every shared task. The Catherans proved skilled at structural repairs. The Vorlothy helped rebuild damaged computer systems. The Serani assisted in cleaning up debris from the oceans. President Grant spent her days meeting with representatives from dozens of alien species. They came in secret, afraid the Union would discover their contact with Earth. All of them asked the same questions. How did Earth survive? Could they do the same? Would Earth help them? She gathered her closest advisors to discuss the situation. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral for his role in the battle, stood beside Commander Blake. Dr. Palmer and Chitex represented the scientific community. Vex and Maria spoke for the refugee populations. We have a choice to make, President Grant began. We can return to isolation, rebuild our defenses, and hope the Union leaves us alone. Or we can do something bigger. You're thinking of forming an alliance, Commander Blake said. It wasn't a question. The galaxy is changing, President Grant replied. The Union's corruption is exposed. Their military suffered a defeat they can't hide. Species all over are questioning the system. If we act now, we might be able to offer them an alternative. It's risky, Admiral Morrison warned. We barely survived one battle. If we openly challenge the Union again, they'll come back with everything they have. But we wouldn't be alone, Vex interjected. The messages we're receiving suggest dozens of species are ready to join us. Together we could build something the Union can't easily destroy. Chitex clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. A coalition based on freedom and mutual defense. Each species maintains its sovereignty, but pledges to protect the others. The Union's power comes from dividing species. United, we could stand against them. President Grant nodded. That's exactly what I'm thinking. We call it the Free Worlds Coalition. Open to any species willing to uphold principles of freedom, self-determination, and mutual defense. The group debated for hours. Senator Hughes was invited to attend, and he argued passionately against the idea. You're putting an even bigger target on Earth's back, he said. We got lucky once. We won't get lucky again. But the vote, when it came, was clear. Earth would extend an invitation to the galaxy. President Grant drafted the formal declaration herself. It was broadcast on every frequency, sent to every known inhabited system. The message was simple but powerful. To all species seeking freedom from tyranny, Earth extends an invitation. We are forming the Free Worlds Coalition, an alliance dedicated to the principles of self-determination, mutual defense, and equality among all peoples. No species shall dominate another. No government shall rule through fear. Together we can build a galaxy where freedom matters more than power. The response was overwhelming. Within a week, 8 species formally requested to join. Within a month, 12 more added their names. They brought with them resources, technology, and most importantly, strategic positions throughout Union territory. The Talaxan, a warrior species that had been forced into Union military service, joined and brought their fleet. The Neru, scientists who had been suppressed for questioning Union policies, contributed their knowledge. The Dulmar, peaceful traders tired of Union tariffs and restrictions, offered their commercial networks. Earth became the capital of this new coalition, not because humans demanded it, but because the other species chose it. They saw Earth as the symbol of resistance, the planet that had risked everything to do what was right. A new city was built just outside Geneva, designed to house representatives from all member species. Human architects worked with alien engineers to create a place where different kinds of beings could live and work comfortably. The city was named Haven, and it quickly became a hub of galactic activity. Admiral Morrison took command of the Coalition's combined defense fleet. He had ships from 15 different species under his authority now, each with their own strengths and capabilities. The challenge was making them work together. Emma Palmer and Zeth were put in charge of a new research initiative that brought together the brightest minds from all Coalition species. Their mission was to develop technologies that would give the Coalition an edge against the Union's numerical superiority. Working in adjacent labs, they spent months collaborating on projects that blended multiple species knowledge: human creativity, Vorlothy computation, Kethrin engineering, and innovations from the newer members created breakthroughs none of them could have achieved alone. Slowly, Emma and Zeth's professional partnership evolved into something deeper. They took breaks together, shared meals, talked about their hopes for the future. The differences between them, once intimidating, became fascinating instead. Dr. Palmer led the Coalition's Scientific Council. He worked primarily with Chitex, and together they ensured that technology served all member species equally. They developed standards for sharing knowledge and resources that prevented any one species from gaining too much power. The Galactic Union, meanwhile, was in crisis. The old council had been forced to resign in disgrace after the corruption evidence went public. A new council was elected, composed of reformers who promised to address the Union's problems. The new council reached out to the Free Worlds Coalition. They requested peace negotiations. President Grant agreed, but on the Coalition's terms. The negotiations would take place on neutral territory, and both sides would come as equals. The Treaty of Terra, as it came to be called, took 6 months to negotiate. The Coalition demanded major changes to galactic law. After intense debate, the Union agreed to most of them. No species could be exiled without a fair trial overseen by multiple independent judges. Economic exploitation of developing worlds was forbidden. Military aggression for resource acquisition was declared a war crime. A new court was established to hear grievances against both the Union and any Coalition member. The treaty wasn't perfect. Enforcement mechanisms were weak and many details remained vague. But it represented a fundamental shift in galactic politics. The Union no longer had absolute authority. There was an alternative now. Not everyone was happy. Senator Hughes continued to argue that Earth had taken on too much responsibility. "We're not ready to be galactic leaders," he said in speeches. "We're going to collapse under the weight of all these commitments." But most humans disagreed. They had seen what unity with other species could accomplish. They had fought alongside Kethrins and learned from Vorlothy. They had made friends with beings they once thought were impossible to understand. A year after the battle, President Grant stood before a massive crowd in Haven. Hundreds of thousands filled the streets, representing dozens of species. Humans stood next to Kethrins. Vorlothy conversed with Talixan warriors. Sarani swam in decorative pools designed for their comfort while participating in the celebration. "A year ago we were alone," President Grant said. "Earth was isolated, unsure of our place in the galaxy. Then refugees came to our door asking for help. We could have turned them away. We could have chosen safety over compassion. Instead, we chose to stand for something bigger than ourselves. That choice led to war. Many of us lost friends and family in the battle. We paid a terrible price, but we also gained something precious. We found allies. We found friends. We discovered that the galaxy is full of people who want the same things we want: freedom, safety, the chance to build a good life for their children." The Free Worlds Coalition isn't just a political alliance. It's a promise that we will stand together, that we will protect each other, that no species will face tyranny alone ever again. Vex stood beside her on the stage. He spoke next, his words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "My people were dying when we found Earth. We had lost our home, our hope, our future. Earth gave us all three back. They risked everything for strangers. That's not just kindness. That's courage beyond measure. We have a saying among my people, the strongest shelter is built by those who have known the storm. Everyone here has known the storm. We've all suffered under systems that didn't care about us. Together we're building a shelter strong enough to protect us all. Kitek spoke for the Vorlothi. Logic told us that Earth would abandon us. Probability said they would choose their own survival over ours. But humans don't always follow logic. Sometimes they follow their hearts. That illogical choice saved us. It saved the galaxy. The celebration lasted 3 days. Music from a dozen worlds filled the streets of Haven. Foods from across the galaxy were shared. Children of different species played together, not caring about the differences their parents once thought insurmountable. Admiral Morrison walked through the crowds with Vex. They stopped to watch a group of human and Kithran, children racing through a park. We did something impossible, Vex said quietly. We changed the galaxy. We gave people hope, Jake replied. Sometimes that's enough. Emma and Zeth stood on a balcony overlooking the celebration. They had